Thank you, members. We're going to start again now, and welcome to the people that have come for the second meeting. We're still doing the first meeting. Right, I think everybody's sitting down again. Thank you so much for all the good humour when we had that little break. And I do apologise to everybody watching online that we went down. We are now sitting in the reconvened full council meeting of BCP Council, which was on the 12th of May. This meeting is only going to deal with the items not dealt with at the adjourned meeting of the council on the 24th of March. I'm Councillor Leslie Dedman, and as chairman, I will be chairing the meeting, and I will be supported by the vice chairman, Councillor Simon Bull. I will now set out brief housekeeping arrangements for the meeting. The meeting is being recorded by the council for live and subsequent broadcasts, and it's going to be on the council website for a minimum of 6 months. So in order to ensure that this meeting is managed effectively, please could everybody follow our ground rules. If you wish to speak, please indicate that you wish to do so by pressing the button on the microphone and then wait for your microphone to turn red before speaking. Where there appears to be a consensus in the meeting for a motion, I will ask if there's any dissension. When a formal vote is required, this will be carried out via the desk equipment, and the results will be displayed on the screens in the chamber. If anybody requests a recorded vote, you will require support from 1/4 of the members who are present at the meeting, and if this is agreed, it will be carried out via our desk equipment. And the results will be, as always, displayed on the screens, but named voting results will be in the minutes. Members, if anybody needs to leave the meeting, could you indicate to me that you are leaving? And if you are leaving finally, rather than for a comfort break, sign out by touching the screen and selecting the sign out option. Right, in accordance with the Constitution, we will of course have comfort breaks as appropriate, and I would ask that people don't leave the meeting during a debate. And finally, points of order raised must state the applicable Constitution provision. I will assume that, as always, councillors will uphold the highest standard of conduct during our meeting and treat one another with courtesy and consideration. And on behalf of BCP Council, and as chairman, I welcome all members of the public present, who I can see, and of course, everybody who is watching online. Your attendance is a really important part of our local government democracy, and all the members in the chamber support that. However, this evening's full council meeting is not a public meeting, it's a meeting being held in public. So I would ask that any member of the public will follow the rules of silence and of the Constitution. Right, so rushing on to agenda item 1, apologies. Chief Executive, over to you, thank you.
Good evening. Apologies that we've received to date for this first meeting of the evening. Councillor Julie Bagwell, Councillor John Challenor, Councillor Anne Filer, Councillor Andy Martin, Councillor Chris Matthews, Councillor Margaret Phipps, Councillor Marianne Le Poitevin, Councillor Peter Sidway, Councillor Kieran Wilson, and Councillor Vicky Slade.
And I think we have to add David Martin to that. Hazel Allen.
I'd like to give my apologies for Councillor Lawrence Williams. Thank you.
Councillor Rickett.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to tender apologies for Councillor David Martin as well, please.
Councillor Nanovo.
I would like to tender apologies for Councillor Dawn Logan. I don't think I heard her name mentioned.
Councillor Beasley.
Apologies for Councillor Bobby Dove, who has become unwell this evening.
Councillor Herritt.
Councillor Olivia Brown is delayed at the hospital with her son.
Right, members, I believe that's all the apologies, is it, Chief Executive? Thank you. So that was agenda item 1. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Chief Executive, could you report on interest declarations received?
Yeah, we haven't received any declarations of interest for this evening, but if any member is required to make a declaration, they should refer to the flowchart that's set out on the agenda for guidance.
Councillor Nanovo.
I have an interest in the motion regarding the short-term lets, so I will be stepping out for that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from the floor? Right, I think we can move on now to agenda item 3, notices of motion. Biodiversity loss. Councillor Joe Salmon, I call upon you to move your motion, and you have 3 minutes to put it to us.
To continue kicking the can down the road on this issue. This motion asks us to act proportionately, to assess the risks properly, strengthen our planning and treat nature as critical infrastructure. And yet, it also asks us to speak very clearly to government, because obviously local authorities cannot manage systematic risk like this alone. Removing that challenge from this motion, or watering it down to something that is just aspiration and good vibes, would be a betrayal of the residents we are meant to serve. If we ignore this, we are simply choosing higher long-term costs for our residents, greater instability, and creating issues we could easily avoid if we begin to act now. So this is a simple, pragmatic, evidence-led governance motion. I urge members to support it. That's it. I don't know what else I can say.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Salmon. And now we have Councillor Kate Salmon, who I understand wishes to second the motion.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I will second the motion and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Salmon. Councillor Hadley, your microphone came on, and you are now being given only 1 minute 33 to speak. So I don't know quite what's happened there. Right, Councillor Hadley, do speak.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Salmon, thank you. This is a really important topic. In the first year of the existence of BCP Council, in July 2019, we approved a motion to adopt a climate and ecological emergency, and your motion speaks to both aspects. Indeed, I put a reference and a link to the government's national security assessment on the impacts of biodiversity loss into the forward of this year's climate action report, which came to Council at the beginning of March. The topic was debated in the House of Lords at the end of February, and the unavailability of the government's detailed assessment was rehearsed there. Lack of that detail is really unhelpful for developing our local plans and responses. Alongside this, there was a national emergency briefing held at the Methodist Central Hall in Westminster last November, recordings of which can be found online, and it's well worth looking at, with leading scientists using short presentations stating quite clearly and simply the threats and what we should be doing about them. I circulated a summary of this in an email to all members back in February of this year. The mainstream media has largely ignored all this, but a film of the National Emergency Briefing is now being shown around the country to engage the public, including one of those being hosted next month by the MP for Poole, an event which I'm actively supporting. I would urge all members to attend a screening and debate of the National Emergency Briefing, or to watch the video links online, which are in an email I sent you all on the 3rd of February this year. But I'm really not sure that adopting this lengthy motion is the right way to go about it. In looking at the list of resolutions, the 6-month deadline is unrealistic because it covers so many areas and policies across many arms of the Council that are already in flight. In the 3 minutes available, I can't do it justice, which is why motions like this are really not helpful. It would have been good if you'd recognise the significant work that is being undertaken and planned by the Council, and in partnership with other agents, including the local plan refresh, which included a recent Voices for Nature workshop for planners and others, the local transport plan 4, which the other councillor, Salmon, has been actively contributing to, our local nature partnership with Dorset Council and many other organisations concerned about the natural world, our local nature recovery strategy with a partnership group which met last week, which I chaired, and within that, an identified list of indicator species to concentrate on as markers for the success of habitat recovery work, the green infrastructure strategy, our BCP urban forest strategy, the adopted flood and coastal team studies of Poole Bay and Christchurch Bay, and current work on inland flooding risk and assessment management, work on biodiversity net gain and how we use that to finance nature, BCP's status as the first nature town in the whole country, our work on re-wetting parts of the urban heathland, the emergency planners work and exercises run by the local resilience forum. Having a considered presentation and discussion at the Place and Environment Overview and Scrutiny Committee would have been a far better way to identify the gaps and opportunities and to move this agenda forward. The proposer could easily have raised it there with the wording is used under paragraph B. I don't think this motion works and I will not vote for it.
Thank you, Councillor Hadley. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Chair. I'm trying to find a little bit of consensus between those two views. We have a motion on the table from Councillor Salmon and then a call to reject it. But I think there is a way forward. And as an advocate for nature and for protecting the ecosystems that sustain us, I agree with the sentiment and the urgency that is contained within the motion. And like many people, I've enjoyed seeing The Secrets of British Gardens in Sir David Attenborough's recent documentary series and the many documentaries that have come before it alongside his extraordinary work in advocating for the natural world. And I just wanted to take a moment on behalf of the council to wish him a happy 100th birthday and thank him for decades of service in opening our eyes to the wonder and the vulnerability of our environment. But I share the concern about biodiversity loss, ecosystem design and the consequence that brings for food security, public health, flooding, overheating and resilience more broadly. However, I can't support the motion in its original form. It includes uncosted demands and impractical solutions that are undeliverable, and it commits this council to actions without clarity on resources, legal footing, governance, or even what is already being delivered. I'd like to take this opportunity also to thank the many officers across the council who live and breathe biodiversity on a day-to-day basis and are passionate about their roles in protecting and enhancing it. The motion does not acknowledge the incredible work that this administration, including Councillor Hadley as portfolio holder, and officers do to improve biodiversity, or even our communities do to restore nature or protect our precious habitats. This amendment allows us to unite around a shared goal of protecting nature whilst also respecting the responsibilities as a council to be transparent, accountable and financially responsible, and also to showcase for full council the sheer amount of work already going on between us and our partners and already nationally recognised by our status as the first nature town, but also help us to identify gaps in our resilience. So I've circulated the motion to councillors. Would you like me to read through the amendments?
Yes, if you don't mind, thank you.
Okay. So A, direct action by the leader and cabinet. So I've deleted that the leader of the council instructs cabinet to undertake. Instead it says request the cabinet consider undertaking. Then it continues as is until number 2. it originally said that Cabinet instructs officers to prepare a consolidated risk and resilience report. I've changed that to that Cabinet considers instructing officers to prepare a consolidated risk and resilience report. Number 3, I delete that this review explicitly considers, and replaced it with that when considering any review, Cabinet shall consider whether biodiversity and so on. Then B and C remain unchanged as recommendations to Overview and Scrutiny Committee and to Audit and Governance, which I don't feel it's my role as leader to amend. And then D, reporting back to full council, it deletes basically everything apart from number 1, that Cabinet reports back to full council within 6 months following consideration of the above. Thank you.
Councillor Earl, do you have a seconder for that amendment before we put it? Yes, Councillor Butt.
Thank you. Just mindful of process and procedure, I was just wondering, we have a motion in front of us, and I'm just wondering how germane the second motion is to the first, and whether it still has capacity to stand, because there seems to be so many changes. I do not support the initial motion, but just that there are so many changes to the second motion. I was wondering whether we could have advice as to whether it is germane and does actually reflect the first motion which we've heard. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Yes, Councillor. I didn't think it contradicted anything, but I will consult the monitoring officer.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So the constitutional requirements are such that the amendment should not in the end have the effect of negating the motion before the council. I'm satisfied it doesn't negate it and it can proceed. But thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out, Councillor Butt, and we've clarified that. Councillor Earl, I was asking if you had a second. Is it David Brown? Councillor David Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'm happy to second, and I've reserved my right to speak.
Jesus Christ. Right, members, we now debate the amendment, which I hope everybody has got in front of them. So do I have any speakers on the amendment? Councillor Joe Salmon. Right, thank you, Councillor Joe Salmon. I could have asked if you'd accept the amendment, but I imagine the answer is very much no. So I'm looking for more speakers on the amendment. Councillor Brown.
Thank you. Yeah, just to speak briefly as the seconder of the amendment, I think it is an appropriate amendment to find the middle ground. I mean, Councillor Salmon, in presenting your motion, you talked about his simple and pragmatic motion. You didn't mention that it's resource intensive and costly to actually carry out everything that's asked for in that. To me, rather than bringing this forward in March, it would have been more appropriate to bring it forward at the February budget meeting to ask for budget to be allocated to for this financial year. Are you going to drop as a result of it? You can't just say, actually, the staff need to work 12 or 15 hours a day instead of the normal time. You know, there's a lot of work here to be done at the expense of what? That we've already agreed for this financial year within our budget. So that's why I understand the concerns and I agree with a lot of them, but I think the amendment is pragmatic in terms of actually it's cognizant of the resources that we have within the council and what we are able to deliver.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Butt.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I don't disagree with the monitoring officer. With this, my advice to Councillor Salmon is that there are some very good aspects in here, things which can't be considered by this council and things that should be considered by this council. And I can only suggest that he has a chat with our leader and tries to find a motion that we can put forward that everybody can sign up to that satisfies your needs as much as the needs within everybody else within this chamber. I'd certainly support that. I hope that's helpful. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Yes, thank you very much, Councillor Butt. Councillor Canavan, you're speaking to the amendment.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I wanted to support the amendment, if I may, and that's because I think the original text of the motion is by no means straightforward. It's a complex motion requiring a considerable amount of work. And the reality is that I do not believe that is practical to get through all of that work in 6 months. The deciding factor for me in supporting this amendment is that I think it's entirely realistic for the Cabinet to do what the amendment says it's being asked to do within the timescale set out. So I think that's a much more pragmatic way forward in terms of trying to move this very important issue forward. Nobody is denying that this is not an important issue. It is. But as Councillor Hadley mentioned earlier, you know, considerable work is already going on within the limited resources that BCP has. If we really want to try and press this forward, then I think this amendment is the best way to try and make progress on the issue. It's not going to be the end of the debate, Madam Chairman, because I think it's an issue that we are bound to come back to again, and especially once Cabinet has had the opportunity to consider how it might be able to take the issue forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Canavan. Councillor Rigby.
Thank you, Chair. I'll keep this really brief. Obviously, there's a biodiversity crisis, and obviously we should be doing something about it. The amendment, as it is, should not go through simply because it sets a precedent. The precedent here is if someone is going to bring a motion to this council, that the administration will change it to, oh, we'll consider it, and then we'll have it seconded by saying, should have brought it to the budget, we can't afford it. So if that's the case, what is the point of us bringing anything here at any point if that's going to be the reasoning for refusing to accept a motion or at least debate on it? Thanks.
I think that was you speaking to the amendment, was it, Councillor Rigby? Councillor Howell.
Thank you. I completely agree with Councillor Rigby's point there. I would also like to question this matter. It's becoming a constant refrain that the council doesn't have resources and money to do anything. The reality is that we have this massive opportunity now to use artificial intelligence, train our officers really to save an enormous amount of time in this council by using it in a questioning way. And it's a project like this, it could really cut into this task by identifying how other places are doing it and where the gaps are, etc., etc. And once you've done that, you know, it may actually be affordable. And this is what we should be doing across the whole council. We have a lead member now for performance, but what we really need is a councillor committee to look at AI and how we can use this in our council. It's too important to be left to officers to do in the background. This needs to be addressed up front so we can really save money and time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Howell. I'll take Councillor Bartlett and I think we'll go to the vote. Councillor Bartlett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with the leader actually on this. I think no one's disagreeing with the sentiment and content of the motion. I think we all understand that. What's being offered is a way forward in a practical sense so that can actually be done. As the motion is, it's almost impossible to deal with in the complex way that it's set out. It's too many issues in there. So I think it does, I think what the leader has suggested is a very practical solution who has to, of course, take into account the resources that we do have. And I think, you know, it's a very sensible suggestion. I support the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Earl, I'm going to ask you to sum up the amendment and then we can go to the vote on that.
Thank you, councillors, for debating the amendment and for those who have spoken in support. Just to say, I do think we need to set that precedent. I think it is extremely irresponsible governance for us to be able to bring motions to council without an allocated way in which we can fund them. For example, you know, you could bring a motion for anything, and how would we even find a solution for that unless we have room in our budget, like unallocated reserves, or we take it from a different service area? I think it is absolutely the right thing to do, that if you want to bring a motion that is going to cost this council money, you need to find where you're going to make a saving to be able to make it happen. And I would also say, having read the motion initially, my first response was, could councillors please do their research and speak to officers about what we are already doing across the council? I really wish that there was an opportunity to speak before this motion was put in, to give you some assurance about what we are doing and be able to showcase that to you in a way that is that demonstrates what we are already delivering. And as Councillor Hadley said, there certainly is a lot there, which I'm really proud of. And I think when we talk about an emergency, we are absolutely treating it, it's even in our corporate strategy. And we obviously declared an emergency several years ago, which we're still working towards. So I would just say, from my perspective, is two things. If you're going to bring a motion, it needs to be costed. You need to have identified funding. And if you are going to create a motion, then at least please look at what already is being delivered in the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Members, we now vote on whether or not to accept the amendment to Councillor Salmon's motion. So can I ask you all to vote, please? Members, there seemed to be some problem with some of the machines putting the vote. So I'm going to ask for a show of hands in this case. So members, all in favour of the amendment put by Councillor Earl? Thank you, members. I think we've done that. Members, those against? And members, abstentions? Right. Councillor Salmon, I'm so sorry it was too late for a recorded vote there. We need to get those in very early. We have to have the appropriate numbers. Mr Watson, can you read the vote, please?
Thank you, Chairman. So for was 40, against 14, and abstentions 6. So the amendment is carried.
Thank you, members. So that amendment is carried. So can I thank both councillors Salmon for putting that and for everybody having a very good debate. Thank you. Members. Oh, sorry, George. Councillor, you haven't put your
I do apologise, Chair. I thought the process in this chamber was, now that the amendment has become the substantive, we've got an opportunity to debate the substantive.
Yeah, thank you, George. We're going to do that now. Members, so we have an amendment to the original motion, which we also had in front of us. So now we are then going to debate on the motion. Debate the amendment, which is now the motion. I'm waiting for any names to come up. It's only my own at the moment. Councillor Salmon. Yes, if there's no more debate. Yes, Councillor Salmon.
Working. Testing, testing. Yeah, working now. There we go. So obviously I'm a little frustrated that amendment has passed. I think essentially this is now a motion asking, do we want Cabinet to spend 20 minutes going, have you got any money or not? No, we've not. I will not bother with climate change. It's a bit depressing. It's better than nothing. I must say, with all the best will in the world, I cannot see Cabinet deciding to do anything other than kick this down the road for the next administration to deal with. What a depressing state of affairs.
Members, there seems to be no other wish to speak. And can I say I totally sympathise with Councillor Salmon in his mention of frustration and depression. That is local government, I'm afraid. So can we now go to the vote on the motion, which is, of course, the amendment? We're going to try electronically. I hope it works now, Councillor Beasley. Has everybody managed to vote? So that's the result of the vote on the present substantive motion. And here are the numbers that we've got. Thank you, members. Right, members, we've got another motion to look at now, which is regulating short-term lets to protect housing, communities and the visitor economy in Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole. And members, you'll have received an email from Councillor Armstrong, which is an updated motion in relation to this item in accordance with the Constitution. So before we proceed, can I confirm that councillors have seen this and are happy to accept this? A general yes would be fine. Or no, obviously. Sorry, I didn't mean to lead you. A no would have been just the same. Right, so I'm going to say that that is accepted. So Councillor Armstrong, can you please move your motion?
Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Firstly, I want to acknowledge Councillor Herrick and Councillor Canavan for working so constructively on this motion, and I hope that we will be able to find some consensus across this chamber. I want to be really, really clear that this motion is not about anti-tourism, neither is it about anti-short-term lets. It's about creating a responsible, well-managed, short-term accommodation sector which we know can play a vital role in a vibrant visitor economy. However, without balanced rules, proper planning control and meaningful enforcement, the consequences fall unfairly on residents, neighbourhoods and legitimate businesses. So this motion sets out a clear and practical pathway forward. It commits us to using every local power already available rather than waiting for national revision. It also highlights the pressing need for C5 planning class to separate commercial short-term rentals, like Airbnbs, from permanent residential homes and to distinguish genuine short-term holiday accommodation. And that clarity is absolutely essential if we are to protect housing supply, support compliant tourism and give communities more certainty. This motion also ensures that when national regulation finally arrives, that we will be ready to implement it effectively and as soon as possible. So we bring this motion to council because residents and businesses have expressed to us an urgent need for better regulation and support. And I'd like to acknowledge those that brought questions and statements that we heard to our previous council meeting. So we have listened to the hoteliers who are working incredibly hard to remain viable. They face rigorous and costly requirements for safety, licensing, staffing, insurance and compliance, while still competing with unregulated short-term lets that often carry none of these obligations. So this imbalance is just fundamentally unfair, and for an industry that's central to our local economy, it's destabilising. So we've also listened to families struggling to secure stable long-term homes as the properties are removed from the residential market for unregulated holiday use, deepening housing pressures already felt across our area. And just as an example, in my ward of Eastcliff and Springbourne, hotels that once supported our visitor economy are being forced to close, being converted into houses of multiple occupancy, and this is eroding our hospitality and tourism leisure business. Unregulated short-term lets also bring safety concerns. And I know this personally, a recent ankle injury...
Councillor, you're over your time. Can you wind up?
Thank you. I urge members to support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Herrick, I believe you're seconding. Members, do we have anybody wishing to speak? Perhaps Councillor Herrick, now's your time then.
Thank you, Chair. I'm pleased we could reach such quick consensus.
well, I hope it's consensus. I suppose we'll find out in a few minutes. I think this is actually a really important but underestimated topic to a lot of our residents and our businesses. Even now in my more inland ward, I have issues the residents raise with me about Airbnbs and the issues they can cause with the community. And it's not necessarily some of the things that are, it's a car that started at 5 a.m. because a builder's there, staying there for a week, and instead of having a neighbour you can go and have a chat with, that person is a different person the next week. So I think ultimately it will come down to regulation and resource. We know we need some of that, and a planning class C5. It's already been introduced in devolved nations. There is a slightly different arrangement for London, and these allow local authorities to manage their own areas effectively. We already have an Article 4 direction in some of our area that governs HMOs. We know that that is already quite difficult to manage, but having a separate planning class for short-term lets allows the planning system to have some say on what is okay and not, and therefore residents, and actually enables them to have some transparency and see what the impacts are and be able to object. To my knowledge, everyone accepts that some short-term letting is fine. This is not, as Councillor Armstrong said, an attempt to remove, but the unregulated and uncontrolled part is what's worrying people and businesses. Not only that, we could restrict days. London, for example, with its own arrangements, yet again, has a 90-day rule, meaning more are not permitted, while the rest of England waits with bated breath as to whether we'll be permitted some of the same rules at some point. I know the government are seemingly reluctant, but every now and then we get a little glimmer that they might actually do it. We have been promised a register, but that looks like it's not going to come with the power that we would hope. So I remain hopeful, an eternal optimist maybe, that BCP could be a trial of a C5 planning area and the impacts it would have, especially, of course, if it came with some additional funding. And I would also say to anyone on the general topic of short-term lets that Brighton and Hove have done a really huge piece of work on this, and their overview scrutiny committee, just to look at the impacts on housing and the wider tourism economy. I'd encourage people to read that as well. I'd be happy to share, should people want.
Thank you, Councillor Herriott. I very much liked your mention of optimism. We seem to have no debate on this. So, Councillor Armstrong, do you want to sum up? I would ask you to reply to the debate, but there isn't one.
No, I have nothing further to say. Thank you.
Right, members, in that case, we'll go straight to the vote on this, which, can we use our machines and vote now, please? Hang on, I've just been reminded if there's consensus to accept, just say yes. Okay. Thank you, Chief Executive, for reminding me of that. Much easier. Right, now we're still on the meeting from the 24th of March. And on that date, we had questions from councillors, agenda item 4 on this paper, and we had 5 questions from 5 councillors. And can I remind you, and for everybody that's watching, supplementary questions are available for councillors to respond to the reply from the portfolio holder, but they must be questions, not statements, and they must emanate from the reply that you have just been given. So obviously I will stop anybody who goes, who does not relate to the subject matter of the original question. And again, can I remind you, the time limit is 3 minutes. Can I just make a note that if you look up on the screens, I don't know why I'm waving up there really, but the time does come up on the screens and you can glance up and see how long you've got. I'm not suggesting you gabble, but even so. Thank you. So Councillor Canavan, I think you've got a question to the leader of the council on the Dorset and Wiltshire Fire and Rescue Service. Councillor Canavan.
It's my favourite colour, you know. Can the leader confirm whether BCP Council will be making a formal response to the current consultation on the proposals from the Dorset and Wiltshire Fire and Rescue Service? Could you also confirm that this response will include highlighting concerns about the impact on frontline fire cover, the modelling used to justify the proposed reductions, and the potential impact on areas of open heathland and on communities like Hamworthy? Will BCP Council also encourage the Fire Authority to consider alternative proposals that avoid station closures? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Canavan. Councillor Earl.
Thank you for your question and for raising your concerns. BCP Council has given a response to the current consultation on the proposals from Dorset Wiltshire Fire and Rescue Service. This was drafted by officers from services including communities, emergency planning and environment to reflect operational matters relating to the proposed changes.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Councillor Canavan, do you have a supplementary to that?
Could I just request from the leader that she circulates that, please?
Yes, very happy to circulate that to anyone who wishes to see it. So if you do want to have a look at that consultation response, I was anticipating you might ask me another question, and my response was going to be, please could anyone who is concerned about Dorset Wiltshire Fire and Rescue Services proposals, or who would actually like to have a little look at what is being proposed, the consultation is still open, and as much as the council has given a response based on its own risk that it's determined, anyone else is able to give a response as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Earl, for the supplementary answer. Right, now we have Councillor Joe Salmon. I think you've got a question for the portfolio holder for children, young people, education and skills, who is Councillor Richard Burton, on the Safer Phones Bill. So, Councillor Salmon.
It's simply a rehashing of the email I sent you that you didn't reply to. So I'm just requesting a clear update on the implementation of the council motion relating to the support for the Safer Phones Bill and the development of a consistent local approach to smartphone use within schools. As you will recall, full council originally considered a motion which set out a strong local role in supporting schools and developing a conurbation-wide approach to reducing the harms associated with smartphone use. That original motion was subsequently amended by yourself to narrow it, as you all want to do. Over a year has now passed since council agreed on that amended motion, and there has been no visible progress reported to members on correspondence to government, engagement with schools, discussion at the head teachers' breakfast, input from the youth parliament, or any movement whatsoever towards a consistent local policy across the conurbation in terms of smartphones. In practical terms, the situation in our schools appears unchanged. Mobile phone use continues to be widespread, and the harms we collectively recognised at the time of debate remain present. Given the lack of progress, it's reasonable to ask whether the decision to water down the original motion reflected a reluctance or an inability on the part of the administration to meaningfully engage with this issue. I would therefore welcome a written update setting out what concrete actions have been taken to implement the motion as passed, what engagement has taken place with schools and young people, whether any work is underway towards a consistent local approach, and what the timescale of that work is. Full council motions should translate into real-world action. When they do not, it is important that members and the public understand why they have failed in this way. I look forward to your response.
Councillor Burton, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Salmon, for your question. I shall try to get the answer into 3 minutes. There's quite a lot to say. I prepared this answer for the adjourned council meeting. Since then, there's been some further developments, and I'll add these to the end of the answer. Time was allocated to the topic of smartphone use at the head teachers briefing on the 17th of October. At this, our Director of Public Health presented, as did a representative from supporting smartphone-free childhood. Slides were also shared with all head teachers in the weekly education bulletin following that briefing.
Councillor Burton, I think we're finding it hard to understand you because you're going far too fast, so please take it easy and we'll give you the time.
Okay, in that case, I'll try to stretch my time. Furthermore, the leader of the council wrote to all head teachers in the autumn term regarding the review of their policies in line with the school trust review timescale. The letter was carefully timed to be at the best time to make the biggest difference. The DfE updated their guidance to schools on the 19th of February. This has been shared with schools so that they can ensure their policies are in line with this guidance, which indicates that all schools should be mobile phone-free environments by default. Quoting from the document, it says that this publication provides guidance to individual schools and trusts on how to implement the policy and prohibits the use of mobile phones through the school day, including during lessons, the time between lessons, break times and lunch times. It also says that all schools should be mobile phone-free environments by default. Anything other than this should be by exception only. The Director of Education and Skills and I are attending, or we have attended, the BCP Youth Forum on the 15th of April to gain their feedback on this issue. This will be key to understanding any next steps to be taken. We'll then take this back to head teachers to agree the next steps. In the meantime, ongoing national research evidence of this complex issue is continuing to be noted so that we can ensure that any action we take is commensurate with national evidence and guidance. In your question, you state that mobile phone usage continues to be widespread within schools. I would like to know where you are getting this data from. I have visited many schools of all sorts in that time. I haven't once seen any evidence of mobile phone usage within schools. No head teacher has raised this as an issue with me. I did amend the motion to make it more achievable and to receive wide support. Remember that most of our schools are academies. We cannot or should not instruct them on their policies. We can advise and help, but the decisions are theirs. Council resolutions must be attainable to translate into achieved real-world actions. We let members of the public down if we promise outcomes that we cannot achieve or beyond our control. In this case, we risk our relationships with schools, which is also vital. As I said, we prepared the answer before. Since then, we attended the Youth Forum and listened to their discussions. I would highlight that the members of the Youth Forum had a real understanding of the issues. I was really impressed with the quality of discussion. Now, I have got some extracts on this. I think it's probably better if you ask me, I can send you some notes on what was discussed there to save a little time. One more positive point. I did also visit the General Manager of Moorbus to discuss some ward issues, but also use the opportunity to discuss the app-related discount. The discount was offered after previous discussion with Council Vicky Slade. At the time, they were experiencing problems with the previous card-based payment system, but could offer this discount easily by using the app. Moorbus are now reassessing in light of the new legislation and are planning to fix and reintroduce the loadable card system that should enable them to offer school students discounts by another way.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Burton. Councillor Salmon, do you have a supplementary on that?
Yeah, it's a really simple supplementary one. Can you send me that in writing by email? And if you do, and I reply to you by email, could you then subsequently consider replying to me again by email rather than me having to ask another councillor question to get a response, as this probably isn't the most effective use of the councillor questions slot in full council.
Thank you, Councillor Salmon. I think we all understand that question. Councillor, oh, sorry. Councillor Burton.
Yes, of
Wanted
course.
to say yes, you will.
Yes, of course, I will. And of course, it will also be in the minutes of this meeting.
Of course. Thank you. Councillor Bull, you have a question to put to the portfolio holder for Transformation, Resources and Governance. Councillor Hannah. Right, can you ask your question, please?
Thank you, Chair. My question is on AI. The benefits of using AI could and will have a great impact on how the council operates. Care and consideration should be taken at each step, as this fairly untested technology is adopted. There are challenges and concerns. Can some reassurance be given that known issues with using AI, which include, along with others, oversimplification, overgeneralization, the flattening of cultural perspectives, the potential for reinforcing bias, and systemic racism will be addressed as the use of AI is implemented within the council?
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Ball. Councillor Hannah, I believe it's you to answer.
Thank you, Chairman. May I also take it easy and hope that I will be given time. I would like to thank Councillor Bull for raising the issue. At BCP Council, we are very clear that artificial intelligence must be used carefully, ethically and responsibly, and it must support, not replace, human judgment, particularly where decisions affect residents. We are not adopting AI in an uncontrolled or experimental way. We have put in place a formal AI governance and risk management framework, which requires any type of proposed use of AI to be first assessed for desirability, viability, and feasibility, including ethical, equality, and bias considerations before it can proceed. In relation to the risks highlighted, oversimplification and overgeneralization, AI tools are not permitted to make automated decisions on behalf of the Council. Human oversight is a core requirement, and professional judgment always remains accountable. AI is used to assist staff, not to replace decision-making. On bias, discrimination, and systemic racism, all AI use cases must consider the risk of bias explicitly. This includes requirements for transparency, testing, and where appropriate, the completion of equality impact assessments before deployment. The governance framework is designed to identify and mitigate algorithmic bias and unintended harm, rather than assume technology is neutral. On the flattening of cultural perspectives and loss of context, all AI outputs must always be reviewed and contextualized by staff. In sensitive areas such as social care, housing, or SEND, guidance makes clear that AI must align with principles of dignity, respect, choice, and control, and must not undermine person-centered practice. In addition, BCP Council has established clear rules on which AI tools can be used, with strong controls around data protection, security, and transparency. At present, Microsoft Copilot is the only approved generative AI tool for Council use, because it ensures Council data remains secure and is not used to train external models. We are also putting in place corporate oversight through an AI governance board, which provides strategic assurance, scrutiny, and accountability over all AI activity across the Council, including monitoring impact and responding to issues if they arise. This is not a static position. AI technology is evolving quickly, and so is the Council's governance. Our approach is deliberately principles-based rather than tool-based, allowing us to adapt while maintaining clear ethical boundaries, transparency, and public trust. All of the above has been shared with and discussed by the Council's Digital Working Group, which meets regularly, and all members of the Council are welcome to attend. The next meeting of the group is on Wednesday of next week, and it will include presentations on the Council's use of AI. In responding, may I express appreciation to our IT staff, not least the Director, for the care and thoughtfulness they have applied to what is by no means a straightforward issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hannah. Councillor Ball, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, thank you, Chair. It's very brief. Will residents who are, while we're getting used to AI, when we're trialing AI, you might say, will they be given the option to opt out of having it used in their individual cases?
Can you answer now, Councillor Hannah, or do you want to send a written answer?
I'm happy to answer the question as far as I can. I'm not aware that that has been built into the system. I'm not sure that it will be straightforward to build that into the system, given the types of AI use that are being introduced. And I'm not quite sure of the need for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hannah. Right, Councillor Armstrong, you have a question to put to the portfolio holder for children, young people, education and skills, Councillor Burton, on SEND. Would you like to ask your question, please?
Thank you, Chair. So I'm just mindful that timeframes have changed slightly because this question was put back in April. But in spite of that, there is still the same situation. So I learnt about the ongoing situation of another young resident in my ward who's been waiting several months for a secondary specialist school place. Under the Children and Families Act 2014 and the SEND Code of Practice, local authorities have a legal duty to secure the provision as set out in an education, health and care plan and to ensure that every child receives a suitable education. This young person has been out of school for more than 4 months now, and it's only been in the last few weeks that their alternative provision has been provided. So I'd like to know from the portfolio holder what steps the council is taking to address the shortage of SEND school places, particularly for children with high special needs who are unable to attend mainstream settings or a satellite provision, and what timely support is being provided to children who are currently out of school. How are the rights of these children and their families being upheld when statutory duties are not able to be met? And whilst I appreciate that the new SEND school will be opening, is it still opening, at the Parkfield school site, what about those children who are still out of school and have been out of school for several months and cannot wait until August 2027? Finally, I'd like a response regarding the ongoing absence of specialist holiday provision for children and young people with an educational healthcare plan who've got specific needs and that are not being met and are therefore missing out on the benefits and opportunities available to other children who can access holiday provision. Many SEND children cannot attend group activities. Noise is a big trigger for them, so the SEND local offer often offers them no provision in the holidays as it cannot cater for their specialist needs. So a more bespoke package is required, and several parents have asked me and the portfolio holder in the past about this, and they've been told that no package exists and that BCP cannot provide funding for them. And yet there are free breakfast clubs and wraparound care in the mainstream schools. So why are children who are SEND with more complex needs being forgotten about? Thank you.
Councillor Burton.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Armstrong, for raising this matter. I want to begin by being clear that the Council takes its statutory duties under the Children and Families Act 2014 and the SEND Code of Practice extremely seriously. We recognise that the significant impact on children and families where suitable education is not in place, and we do not consider it acceptable for children to be without education for extended periods. The SEND sufficiency in special places, the core challenge we face is a long-standing national shortage of specialist SEND provision, particularly for children with high and complex needs. That context does not remove our responsibility locally, and addressing this is one of my key priorities as portfolio holder. The Council is actively building SEND sufficiency, including expanding specialist provision locally, increasing capacity within existing specialist schools and specialist units, developing new special school places, including the planned school at Parkfield site, which you mentioned. This work is being taken forward through our SEND Alternative Provision Improvement Plan, which has a clear focus on reducing the number of children waiting for places and minimising time out of education. However, I fully recognise that new schools alone do not help children who are out of education now, and we are not asking families to simply wait until 2027. So support for children currently out of school, where a child cannot attend the school, the Council has a legal duty under Section 19 of the Education Act 1996 to secure suitable education. Alongside our longer-term sufficiency work, we are strengthening our interim arrangements, including more timely intervention for children who are out of school, putting alternative or bespoke provision in place more quickly, reviewing provision where it's not meeting the child's need. We accept that has not always happened as consistently as quickly as families expect, and improving this is a priority area within our improvement programme. Going to communication with families, I also want to acknowledge that communication with families who are waiting for placements must improve. As portfolio holder, I have been clear that families should not feel left in uncertainty. Work is underway too. Improve the clarity and frequency of updates to families, ensure parents understand that support is in place where they are waiting, and strengthen escalation routes where provision is delayed or not working. This is about being honest, transparent and supportive during what is often a very difficult time for families. Coming to the holiday provision and short breaks. It's important to say that many children and young people with SEND do currently access holiday activities, including through our holiday activities and food programme. However, I fully recognise that group-based provision does not meet the needs of all children, particularly those with more complex and sensory needs. This is why, as part of our SEND and AP provision plan, we have a specific focus on development of our short breaks offer. This work is intended to broaden the range of support available to families, improve access to more flexible and bespoke provision, ensure holiday and short break support better reflects the diversity of SEND need. This is about strengthening the system so that families are not left without suitable options. In closing, I would like to be clear that we do not underestimate the seriousness of the issue raised. We know there are children and families experiencing unacceptable waits, and we are taking action to increase specialised capacity, improve interim education arrangements, strengthen communication with families, develop more inclusive and responsive short-term break provision. This work is ongoing, and I will continue to provide oversight and challenge to ensure the progress is made.
Councillor Armstrong, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, it's more a point actually. Thank you for providing that full answer, Councillor Burton. I just want to draw attention as well to the number of families that are going through complaints processes at the moment and are having to use the complaints process to advocate for the needs of their children, and that many families are just simply not in a position to afford to get legal advice, again, to support them through that process. So my final point also is, please can I have a written response in terms of what you've just said so that I can share that with the young person and their family. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Ball, I think you've got a question to put to the portfolio holder for destination, leisure and commercial operations, Councillor Herritt, on plant-based food. Councillor Ball, please ask the question.
Thank you, Chair. Recommendations from the Environment and Place Overview and Scrutiny Committee regarding the plant-based and reduced meat and dairy diets, draft position statement and action plan were presented at Cabinet on the 26th of November last year. A number of the recommendations, including implementation, included implementation dates in February of this year. These actions include meetings on council premises to provide at least one vegan option for all food and drink types, re-tender food contracts to include plant-based options, promotional and retail guidance on plant-based diets developed and shared, and publish online text to promote the benefits of plant-based diets. As it is now May, I ask what progress has been made on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Herritt.
Thank you, Councillor Bull, for your question. Our teams have been working in the area, and as it is now May, we have even more to report than we would have done in March. To take you through the actions of the 11 items that came from the recommendation following a response, I'm not going to read out each question, try and capture each point, in the list of items. 1. Formal catered meetings on council premises have been providing this option in most circumstances already, but definitively since February of this year. The first occurrence is expected in the autumn for number 2. This material has already been shared and will be shared again with the schools. We are not in control of their curriculum, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective. Commercial services is already meeting the 25% target across food outlets, at 36% in general. There are some minor individual exceptions being worked through. Menus in the future will be labelled plant-based and meat-free rather than vegetarian or vegan. Procurement are writing plant-based options into future contracts. 5, including retender contracts. 6, promotional material has been written and shared. A scoping exercise has been completed and would be happy to share. 7. Sorry, no, this is 8. The Microsoft Word has got me. A survey has been completed with 500 respondents, which is around 10% of the staff. We're awaiting a decision. Number 9, 20 champions have signed up. Their inaugural meeting is next month. 10, our web pages have been updated to promote the benefits of plant-based diets. The link is in the notes. I'm not reading it out. 11, there is an annual review scheduled in August.
Thank you, Councillor Herriott. Councillor Bull, do you have a supplementary question? Oh, no. Right. That was the questions which were held over. Urgent decisions taken by the Chief Executive in accordance with the Constitution. Can you advise members of any urgent decisions taken since the last meeting of the Council, which of course was the meeting that we're now holding?
Yes, thank you. I can confirm that I have taken an urgent decision in relation to an adjudication matter, which, following a confidential report which was received by Cabinet on the 26th of March 2026, and group leaders have been briefed on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Now, members, we've dealt with all the business not dealt with at our adjourned meeting. So I think, oh, I'm so sorry. Councillor Bartlett, you wish to say something?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's normal for officer decisions to be published. May I ask when the decision taken on urgency powers will be published, please? Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Watson will answer Councillor Bartlett.
Thank you, Chair. Generally, exempt officer decision records will not be published as we would normally do on our website or publicly. I can take that back to the officer who's dealing with it to discuss with them how we distribute that if we do, but they're not published routinely where they're exempt material.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. So, members, having said that I'm going to close the meeting, I now close the meeting. Thank you all very, very much, and I'm so sorry for the delay at the beginning. Thank you.